It's the John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. Johnny is on vacation. He'll be back on Monday. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. The mailbox exploded overnight because a story that we covered before almost anybody knew about it is now international news. And that just happens to be Katie Porter's explosive interview with Julie Watts of CBS 13 Sacramento.
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
So let me just give you the timeline. Every single morning around 6 a.m., wake up and go through the hundreds of YouTube channels that I am subscribed to that are relevant to this show. All the local news channels, politicians, city channels, I got it all. And I flag anything that seems interesting. At 6 a.m., I saw this 30-minute video posted by CBS Sacramento continuing in Julie Watts' series of asking all the gubernatorial candidates these questions. I walk into the radio station and I tell Lewis, our program director, I heard this Katie Porter sound. I don't know why no one's talking about this yet, but it is wild. We played it here 24 hours ago. I told everyone where that YouTube video was, how to find it, and what the time code was. We posted the podcast of us going through that interview and taking your phone calls 23 hours ago. And I'd say around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, the mailbag started exploding. It started going everywhere. Somebody cut the 3-minute clip and started posting it on social media. And everybody is talking about Katie Porter.
I don't care.
I think you care a little.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. And I don't want this all on camera.
And look, if you didn't get to hear that, if you didn't hear that show and you're like, were they going to cover this because this is the Katie Porter show? I suggest you go back and listen to the podcast of yesterday's show, because I'd love nothing more than to sit here and revel in all of the insanity of that Katie Porter interview again, but we cannot. There is too much breaking news today. It is a massive news day. For one, we just found out about an hour ago that the chief of police in Oakland, Floyd Mitchell, is abruptly resigning.
It's wild, wild west out here.
Which is like the 10th police chief in Oakland in 13 years. We will cover that later. But first, we have to cover the massive news that broke just a few hours ago. An arrest has been made in regards to the Palisades fire. Palisades, the U.S. attorney for the Central District of California, was joined by ATF and the LAPD chief to announce they have arrested a 29-year-old man who's currently in Florida for starting a fire on January 1st that eventually became the Palisades fire on January 7th. So as much as we'd love to play around with all the Katie Porter stuff again, we were all on that yesterday. We're ahead of the game. Congratulations. When you listen to this show, you hear a lot of things before everyone else starts talking about them. And we all are already on that. And we got to move on to this huge breaking news.
Please.
Let's go to the press conference this morning. Here is U.S. Attorney Palisades.
Today, we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht for igniting.
Doesn't get 3 names? Burned down an entire section of a city? I think we should get 3 names.
For igniting a fire that ultimately burned down the Palisades earlier this year, killing 12 people, destroying more than 6,800 structures, both homes and businesses, and damaging over 1,000 more buildings. The complaint on...
And gosh, what, today's the 7th? No, yesterday was the 7th. So it's been 9 months, or I guess 10 months.
The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison.
And remember, if you're talking about federal charges, those don't apply. The California rules of you automatically get half time and we kick down your sentence and we parole you out early, those do not count in federal court. In federal prison, you have to serve 85% of your sentence before you can be let out.
The defendant was arrested yesterday on a federal criminal complaint near his Florida residence, and he's expected to make his initial appearance today in the federal court in Orlando, Florida. I stress that the complaint contains allegations and every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
I know, we have to say that. Tell us what you know. How do we know it was this guy? What exactly is the evidence?
The allegations in the affidavit are supported by digital evidence, including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it.
Whoa. Okay, this is a new one. The age of AI is producing all kinds of strange stories, and apparently, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the man who intentionally started a fire on January 1st that was smoldering underground for a week before it ignited again with those winds was searching on ChatGPT for images of forest fires and people fleeing. That's a weird one, all right.
Including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it. And we're going to put that up on the screen here once we get that going. The allegations are, there it is. That's from his ChatGPT.
So just to be aware, I don't know if you knew this, but apparently whatever you're searching for in these AI generators, the government can find out. So be careful out there. But that's very interesting. We'll see what they do when they decide to present this as evidence. Because I guess you could say that this draws motive. This shows what this guy was planning to do when he allegedly intentionally started a fire after New Year's Eve.
That's an image he produced a few months before the fire started. It shows the city being burned there. The allegations are further supported by the defendant's cell phone, his false statements to law enforcement, and his behavior during the Lockman fire, which the defendant is charged with maliciously starting shortly after midnight.
And you remember, there was so much talk about this little fire that started on New Year's Eve, and originally people thought it was started by fireworks. But the theory and why we were taking so long to figure out the cause of this fire, because the Eden fire, it's pretty much determined at this point that SoCal Edison did that. But for this fire, we couldn't release the after-action report. The feds said we're still working on something here, but there were leaks about this theory that it really had to do with a smaller fire that was put out, but then somehow reignited. And what they're saying now is that small fire was started by arson.
On New Year's Day of this year, and which eventually became the Palisades fire. Late last New Year's Eve, Rinderknecht returned to Pacific Palisades after working the evening shift as an Uber driver.
Oh, not a good day for that.
2 of his passengers told law enforcement that he appeared agitated and angry that night.
This is why you got to go Uber Black. Get a professional driver.
After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rinderknecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video including objects being lit on fire.
And we don't know exactly what the rap song is yet. Apparently it's French, but are we alleging that this guy was influenced by a French rap song video that had things burning and he wanted to recreate that? This guy sounds insane.
The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire.
Oh, boy. Every single aspect of this so far is showing how mentally unwell we can be when all we are is left alone with our phones.
12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started. It took the defendant several tries to contact 911 to report the fire. He fled the scene in his car, but turned around after passing fire engines driving in the opposite direction to fight the fire. So he allegedly starts the fire. He calls 911, couldn't get through a couple of times because Los Angeles and New Year's Eve. And it's impossible to get a hold of anybody on New Year's Eve because everyone's got to call you and say, I miss you. Where are you? All that nonsense. And then as he's leaving, he sees the fire engines going up to put out that fire, and he turns around to watch. While the Lockman fire burned, the defendant walked up the same trail from earlier that night to watch the fire and firefighters, using his iPhone to take short videos of the scene. Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground.
And I don't totally know what that means. So if there's anybody who is in a fire department that wants to clarify that term, smoldering underground, what happens here, I'd sure love some clarification. You can give us a call, 800-222-5222, or email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, because I don't know what this means.
Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire...
Because apparently this fire was put out, smoldering for 6 days, and then reignited when they had the massive winds, which then all that still doesn't account for the no water in the fire hydrants and all the other nonsense in Karen Bass being in Ghana.
Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground within the root structure of the dense vegetation. So that fire started on January 1st. And it smoldered underground for about a week until on January 7th, heavy winds caused this underground fire to surface and spread above ground, causing what became known as the Palisades fire, one of the most destructive wildfires in Los Angeles city history.
So, according to our U.S. attorney and the ATF, this wasn't a homeless fire. This wasn't a utility fire. This was straight up crazy guy arson who was influenced by French rap songs and ChatGPT. It's a weird, weird story.
Law enforcement got to work and by January 24th had identified and interviewed the defendant. During his interview...
That was a long time ago.
During his interview, he lied about where he was when he first saw the Lockman fire, claiming he was near the bottom of a hiking trail. Geolocation data for the 911 calls showed that he was standing above the fire in a clearing merely 30 feet from the blaze as it rapidly grew. As the world watched in horror as the Palisades fire burned, victims perished in the smoke and flames. Homes where cherished family memories and belongings were turned to rubble and ash. The iconic Pacific Coast Highway along Malibu looked like a war zone. Thousands of people were forced to evacuate. Though homes and businesses cannot be rebuilt, this arrest, we hope, will provide a measure of justice to all those who were impacted.
It definitely is an important day that we at least know how this fire was started, and we'll see what happens with this trial. There are still a whole lot of other problems when it comes to the rebuilding efforts and the failures of the city of Los Angeles to respond to this fire appropriately and the lack of leadership from an absent mayor. But knowing who allegedly started this thing is at least some kind of comfort. Oh, we have some clarification here. Let's go to Guido in San Carlos. Guido, hello.
Hello, Randy. Yeah, I have over 20 years of experience in fire service, and ground fires happen a lot more than people realize. The root system of trees and shrubs and things of that nature, it'll actually harbor the fire, and that's why it takes so long to overhaul a lot of fires. And we have to cut trees down because the inside of the trees will actually burn. And we had an experience where I work. Lightning came through and started the interior of a tree on fire, and 2.5 weeks later, it fell over and started a brush fire. So it is a common thing that does happen.
Wow, well, that's incredible. Thanks so much for educating us. It is something really scary to think about, that a small fire that was put out still had the potential to do that kind of damage. But thanks for letting us know about that. Appreciate that. Got to add that to the board. I think that's our first call from San Carlos. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you want to react to the breaking news coming from the U.S. Attorney's Office about the arrest of a 29-year-old man in Florida who allegedly started an intentional fire on January 1st that became the Palisades fire on January 7th. You can give us a call, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. An arrest has been made when it comes to the Palisades fire, and what's being alleged is arson going back to January 1st, where somebody intentionally set a small fire, and that eventually became a much larger fire that destroyed the Pacific Palisades and took several lives and destroyed thousands and thousands of homes. There are allegations that this suspect was looking up on ChatGPT, the AI software, for images of forests burning and people fleeing. He apparently was also listening to a French rap song over and over and over again, which I just watched during the break, where you can see a couple of fires in it. I don't know how relevant that is. Clearly, this guy's completely insane. But if you want to react to the news of the arrest of the suspect in the Palisades fire, give us a call, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Johnny's on vacation. He'll be back on Monday. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe you want to listen to yesterday's 12 o'clock hour entitled Katie Porter Threatens to Walk Out of a Local TV Interview, something we covered before pretty much anybody else did. I didn't do the interview, so Julie Watts gets all the credit, but I think we brought a lot of attention to that, and now it is spread like, well, I'm not going to say what it would spread like because that would be tasteless when we're talking about what we're talking about right now. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley, has announced an arrest and charges being filed in the Palisades fire. It's one guy, apparently, who intentionally started a fire on January 1st and went back to film the firefighters putting out his fire after he ran and called 911. He apparently was searching on ChatGPT constantly for images of forest fires burning and people running, and was over and over again watching a French rap song that has some fires in the video. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But if you want to react to the arrest made in the case of the Palisades fire, 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's start with Albert in Lake County. Albert, hello.
Hey, Randy. I wanted to talk about the Palisades fire. When it originally started there that night, and they had videos of it from some homeowners showing, oh, there's a small fire on the hill. Well, then when the big fire started subsequent days later at the exact same location, I said to myself, that looks like a rekindle. And what happens is if you don't have enough water to really put the fire out, you're up in the mountains there, then the roots You have roots that are burning. It's similar like if you have you burn a fire in your in your fireplace, and then you put the trash in a bag and set it out on your deck, and you've seen those fires burn houses down by doing that days later. Same thing. The roots are still on fire, but they're smoldering, and they're just waiting for the wind. And then when the wind picks up, all of a sudden it'll spark up a little bit, and then because we had the heavy winds down there that night, it just took off. So it's more common than you think.
It's very good to know, and it's something that we all got to be very aware of. Thanks so much for letting us know about that, Albert. Appreciate it.
One last comment, Randy. One last comment. The Oakland fire, that was a rekindle. Do you remember that years back?
The big one.
That Oakland fire was a small fire. Oakland guys went out, put it out, and then like next day or two, it took out all the hills in Oakland. That's the same thing. But so a lot of fire departments, what they'll do is they'll leave an engine company out there for days to prevent that from happening in the right location.
And that's something we definitely got to be doing moving forward, because this sure sounds like a heck of a lot more common than I was aware of. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Of course, for that, a fire department like Los Angeles needs to be fully funded, but we'll see. Let's go to Cheryl in Northern California. Cheryl, hello.
Hello. Actually, I'm from Lake County. How fun.
All right.
Caller.
2 Lake counties in a row.
Yeah. I'm calling about our fire that took out my place, the ranch fire. And what happened there, and I had to find out, the fire department never released this ever. I had to find out around town pretty much from the relative of the rancher who was hammering with a spike, and a spark caused the fire. He then called the fire department, who put it out. During the mop-up process with the convicts, one convict rolled the log. That, you turn it over, you make sure everything's totally out, because I used to be a firefighter. And it rolled down a hill and started what's called the ranch fire. And what happened is later on, after the fire was out, the rancher was charged with the fire, and it was later quietly dismissed. And like I said, the authorities never told this fact. I had to get the story from the rancher's nephew. And in addition, the only thing I have to add is that the fire as the ranch fire was coming over the mountain, because I live next to the Mendocino Forest, as it was coming over, the firefighters finally got me to leave. I was hanging out forever. And then they lit a backfire that took my whole 48, burnt the 40 acres to the ground. And so it's like they never admit either thing. They never admitted. And so they just keep things to themselves. I think that probably both the state and the local firefighters were negligent. But anyway, yeah, so they do rekindle, like the other fellow Albert was saying.
I appreciate the call. That is super upsetting that all of that happened. And yeah, we need to be as transparent as possible when things like this happen and educate the public about this. And thanks so much for the call, Cheryl. 2 calls in a row from Lake County. Love to see it. Let's go to Kimberly in the Palisades. Kimberly, hello.
Hello, Randy. How are you? Thank you.
Doing great.
Good. I just wanted to comment that I lost everything, and of course there is some kind of closure in knowing the source. But I also really want to not lose sight of the fact that the mayor cut the fire a budget despite warnings from the fire chief. The reservoirs were completely dry. Fire, hydrants were not working, and I think we all know all of it. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that the neighborhood that I lived in burned all the way to the ground, every single house, because at 3 o'clock there was no more water. So, of course, with a fire and the wind that we had, of course, there was going to be damage. But our entire town burned down. not, and that's not just on that one individual. So remember, people, elections matter and competency matters.
You are so right about that. Kimberly, you're so right about that, and that is so worth mentioning that, yes, now we know who started this fire, but part of the reason it was so devastating, destroyed so many homes, and took so many lives, were policy failures that go back years and years and years in the city and the county of Los Angeles. Kimberly, how has the rebuilding process been for you?
Well, it has not been great, and I have to say, even though I am not a fan of the mayor, but the permits actually are happening quickly. The problem is that insurance is lowballing and slowing everything down. I'm the perfect example. I have State Farm. It has been 9 months. And I am no closer to knowing what the settlement is today than I was right after the fire. I am still negotiating with them. I cannot build a house unless I have a budget. I don't know my budget because State Farm has not paid me yet. So really and truly, the hindering of the rebuild is on insurance right now. It is really not the permitting process. In fact, a builder I know has 31 projects in the Palisades, and he says that he's never had permits expedited as quickly. So there you go.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and that is another aspect of this that needs to be reiterated, how unbelievably awful these insurance companies have been in fulfilling their end of the contract. And meanwhile, the person who's supposed to be regulating them, Ricardo Lara, is literally off on safaris in South Africa.
Oh, I know. Please spare me. I mean, people, elections matter. We need to really know about the people that we are voting in. But I guess Laura was not really voted in, appointed, correct?
No, he was elected twice.
Oh, he was. Okay. I thought Governor you-know-who appointed him.
No, he ran and won that seat twice. So unfortunately, that is on California, who put in somebody who had no experience in the insurance industry and who was easily corruptible to not want to hold people accountable with all the disasters we've had over the last 8 years. Kimberly, I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy, so much, too.
Thank you.
God bless.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Susan in San Francisco. Susan, hello.
Good morning, awesome Randy. You and John make my day every day. I'm 82 and I get so much energy from you. But I wanted to comment. I agree with that last caller in particular. And if I was called on a jury, I'm sorry, but once the professional fireman stepped in and supposedly put the fire out, and the person that started the fire was watching it, he did not approach and restart that fire as of that moment. So I'm sorry, I could not convict him, and he is sick and he is crazy. But all the other stuff about what he looks at, music he listens to and everything, that gets wiped when the professional fireman took care of the situation. The professional firemen know about underground things that can continue. Nothing was done about it. And yes, all the things about the empty reservoirs and so forth also are a huge part of that. So that's how I see it.
Well, that is one of the biggest parts about this. Apparently, this is the first I've learned of today, how common this is for things to be smoldering in the roots. Then we need to have trucks deployed to watch for things like that. We need to make sure we have water in the fire hydrants. We need to make sure brush is cleared, the areas that the city has, not filing claims, going after homeowners with empty lots saying clear your non-brush. And we need to make sure that when we have a massive reservoir, that it's not sitting dry for a year and a half. There are so many lessons to be learned from this, and a lot of them have nothing to do with who actually started it. So thank you so much for the call, Susan. We're glad we get to entertain you every day on KSFO. Love to hear that. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Your reaction to the arrest of the alleged arsonist who started a small fire on January 1st that U.S. Attorney Palisades says became the Palisades fire that killed plenty of people and destroyed thousands of homes. If you want to react to that, give me a call, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up next. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. Let's get right back to the phones, reacting to the U.S. Attorney's Office announcing an arrest in the Palisades fire. Let's go to Jonathan in the Palisades. Jonathan, hello.
Hi. Well, I wanted to start with woo Wednesday because we got the guy that did this. This is terrible. Woo! The reason why I called, the reason I called was now we know the name of the dirtbag that burnt down the house that the song "Light My Fire" by Robbie Krieger of The Doors was written. His parents owned the house. They sold it many years ago, so somebody else owned it. But the house that "Light My Fire" was written in was burnt down. And now we know who the dirtbag is that burnt down the house that Robbie Krieger's parents owned. I'm very upset with this person, and I'm sure Robbie Krieger is too. What a beautiful, beautiful guy. And a terrible thing, he had his first guitar stolen, which is also written on "Light My Fire," and now the house that it was written in is burnt down. So this guy, I hope he burns, somewhere, to say it, nicely. So thanks for taking my call.
Well, thanks so much for calling in and letting us know that piece of history is just tragedy on top of tragedy on top of tragedy in the Palisades, my friend.
Yeah, can you play "Light My Fire" maybe? That'd be great.
I'll try to put it in later on in the show for sure, just for you. Thanks so much for the call. With the context of that story, not that I'm playing songs with the word fire in it as response to a fire, because that would be tasteless, but I will do that. Let's go to Terrence in L.A. Terrence, hello.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey, doing great.
I wanted to talk about the fire in the Palisades. I seen it, the news this morning when they came on and said that they had the guy who started the fire, but I don't know, man. Something smoldering for 6 days is like a long time for something to be burning and no one to not know about it. Also, you feel me? I seen the picture. They had a picture of the guy. He was standing like against a back white wall or something. I don't know if it's AI or, you feel me, wasn't a mug shot of him or anything. So I'm not too for sure. Maybe they just blaming it on somebody, just to get it out the way. But I don't know what's going on with that, man.
So you're not buying it?
No, I'm not buying it. I think that's probably somebody that made up or something, you feel me, to blame the fire on, because Edison's already getting blamed for the other fire.
I mean, stranger things have happened. We'll see. I mean, the feds aren't going to present evidence unless they have a guy. And I would imagine that he's real if he's going to court today and he's not made up by AI. But we'll see. Thanks so much for the call, Terrence. Appreciate it. Let's go to Rose in Marina Del Rey. Rose, hello.
Hey, Randy. I have a different take on this because, look, we pay all of these firemen, all of these captains. There's a firehouse right up there, and everybody's calling in that these fires are not always out once they put them out. So where are they in this picture? Where's the fire department? I mean, if everybody knows these fires stay lit to some extent, why didn't they go back? Why didn't they go back and put it out the correct way or see what was going on with it? Yeah, the guy's an idiot, but where's their responsibility?
I think these are questions that we definitely got to ask, Rose. We definitely got to know, what are the policies if something like this is as common as it is, and who's the one that makes that decisions? Is this a budgetary thing? We'll find out. Thanks so much for the call. Let's go to Stephen in Orange County. Stephen, hello. Stephen? Oh, Stephen went bye-bye. Let's go to Rich in Newport Beach. Rich, hello.
Hey, RW, how are you?
Doing great.
Okay, so you got these people are all over the map today. That's good. Let's go back to the professional firefighter that called in. Smoldering fires, they can last a week and be reignited. Okay, that's fine. But let's go back to the last caller. She says the fire department has some culpability in this. They do. You put fires out with water, but you keep fires out by smoldering them, and you cover them with sand, dirt, which is in abundance up there, by the way. All they needed was a grader. They said it was a small fire, small area. Would have been real easy to do that. They should have done it. Anybody that's ever been camping, their dad taught them, hey, when we put the fire out, we smother it with dirt or whatever's available. So, number two, the other caller called and said, well, I couldn't convict the arsonist. Well, sure you can. It's not a zero-sum game. That guy fully intended to start a fire during a Santa Ana wind, which is when all the pyros come out, and then he went back and to watch it. This guy is, they'll prove it. I won't say he's guilty because he'll get his day in court, but he fully had intent to cause property damage, if not damage to or death to the firefighters and people or innocent people in the houses.
Yeah, if they can prove their case, this guy's going away for a very, very, very long time. And it is scary to think about that people that are this insane have easy access to things that can completely destroy a neighborhood like that. Thanks so much for the call, Rich. Appreciate it. We got time for about one more call. Let's go to Ron in the Palisades. Ron, hello.
Hey, I just want to say this guy's probably guilty of sin. Probably, I hope he gets a death penalty. However, there's so many elements. I'm Palisades person, grew up there. We have Santa Anas every year. So many factors that could have been mitigated, and a lot of things were overlooked, from firings to no water to we have a reservoir that was built for this. So I think he's a scapegoat. The mayor is applauding herself on what a great job she did, even though it's completely negligent. But we also are overlooking the fact that the entire city was MIA from November until the fire started in January. All the volunteer groups that clear brush starting the turn of the year. Every year there's Santa Ana fires. And this is
You're so right about that, Ron. Ron, we're out of time, but there were failure after failure after failure going all the way up to the top, including with Karen Bass fleeing, not thinking that it was going to be a big deal. But at least we know who started it, allegedly. We got 2 more hours to go. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show.